Hey everybody, David here, and welcome to the ASOG podcast. In this episode, Lucas and I sit down with Jill Trotta, the Vice President and General Manager of Industry, Sales, and Certification at RepairPal. We decided to have Jill on in order to navigate a whole host of landmine topics. The result was Jill and Lucas doing a great job of discussing difficult subjects, while I proceeded to burn every bridge I could find. Or maybe not. We'll see how folks react. Either way, please take a moment to hit that like button if you're on YouTube. It's quick and really helps us out. If you haven't been triggered by this episode, consider subscribing to the channel. If you're listening to this on your favorite podcast listening app, make sure you're set to automatically download the latest episode so you never miss an upload. And now, here we go. Well, now I base where I want to move to on the taxes in the area.
My property taxes are insane.
Yeah, well, there you go. That would discourage me entirely from moving. I don't know. Just look at that. I go, what do the sales taxes look like? What do the income taxes look like? What do the property taxes look like? How many things are going to be taxed if I, just do a simple transaction? And it's got to hit so many check boxes. So that pretty much eliminates 90% of the country. And I'm like narrowed down to like just two small areas of the entire country that I find acceptable to live in. And other than that, no, forget it. I'm not moving there.
Yeah.
Sorry, Lucas, North Carolina doesn't fit the bill. Tennessee, however. Tennessee
know, right?
Is on the list.
Yeah, that's.
I know a lot of people have moved to Tennessee. Actually, a lot of people from here have moved to Tennessee.
There's different types of Tennessee. I promise. You've been to my area. You know what it's like here. Within a few miles of here, there are places that the sheriff's department says, listen, if you go up there, you're on your own. We're not going. We're good. We'll pass. Very diverse crowd in the mountains of North Carolina and Tennessee. We'll just say that, David, you'd fit right in.
Yeah.
Listen, I need a nice big plot of land so I can grow my food, and I need the property taxes to be like Montana. I looked into moving to Montana. I'm like, they don't have like income tax, sales tax. They don't have anything. And I'm like, this is paradise. It's out in the mountains. So we got nice, clean mountain air. Nobody lives there, right? Hundreds of miles without anybody to see. And they make all of their money on property taxes. So if you own a large plot of land, you're going to get taxed to death. But if you don't live, if you rent or whatever, I guess you still have to pay for it in the rent. But, just simple transactions, none of that gets taxed. And your income doesn't get taxed. I think they have a capital gains tax, and that was it. But other than that, they got off the list because I do want a fair size plot of land that I can grow some stuff in.
Yeah, and you're kind of, I don't want to say weak-minded, but you're definitely, when it comes to tough stuff, I don't think.
Define tough.
Okay.
Like I'll chop the chicken's head off. I think I can do it. I've never done it before, but I think I can do it. But I know I will be fine, harvesting the eggs and just eating eggs. So if I'm too squeamish to kill the chicken, I need to be within driving distance of a place that I can just drop the chicken off and go, hey, this is Mrs. Hen, and I need it for dinner tonight. Can you take care of it? And I get back a cleaned up chicken that I can eat. But even if I can't get to that point, I'll at least have eggs and then, whatever I can grow in the ground.
Well, I do. You got the whole winter thing, right? It's kind of hard to grow stuff in the ground with 3 foot of snow on top of it. Secondly, most of Wyoming and Montana still has like 1G, right? They're not even to 3G yet. The internet's not great. I don't think you're going to have a good time.
Satellite internet, man. Satellite internet.
Yeah.
It's not a thing anymore. Like that was true like 5 years ago. Now there are satellite choices that have decent speeds. I mean, it's not like we have fiber.
You better get
here,
you a
so-
satellite phone too, because that's the only way you're talking.
Oh,
That's okay,
man.
and I'm okay with that. Like, are you kidding me? I was looking into Linux phones. Are you kidding me? Like, I want to be able to just click and nobody can track me. That's what I want.
Jill, have you figured out he's kind of like Mr. Conspiracy theorist?
No,
Conspiracy
no, it's not about
theorist.
conspiracy theory. It's not even a conspiracy. There is a guy sitting in Russia who cannot come back to the U.S.
Oh my
Okay.
goodness.
What are you guys talking about? It's true. This guy sitting in Russia cannot come back to the U.S. because he will be immediately sent to Gitmo. I guess they just closed Gitmo, but he will get immediately sent to whatever the replacement for Gitmo is going to be because he ratted out the NSA.
Hey, listen, I just want everybody that's listening to know something very, very important. When you see me make a comment where David is involved and I say, please don't get him started, this is exactly what I'm talking
This
about.
is entirely
Is
your
it?
fault. It's entirely your fault. And everybody knows who it is. It's Eric Snowden.
Yeah.
He ratted out the NSA. He watched them spying on normal Americans. Like, hey, this is illegal, and he had to escape to flee prosecution because they were going to throw him in jail for pointing out a government agency doing something entirely illegal.
Look, I think it speaks volumes that when you've done something that you've made so many people mad, the only safe place is Russia. I mean, that
That's
is
pretty
a
bad.
whole different level of
I think
screwed up.
he had to go to a country that didn't have an
Extradition
extradition
treaties.
agreement, with the U.S. So
Venezuela,
it was
man.
Russia or
Venezuela.
But then
but you're not
but
going
then
to
you pick
Venezuela. Like, who
Russia?
wants to eat your pet? Like, I don't want to go have to chase Fido down to eat, otherwise I starve. Like, who wants to go live there? Nobody.
Listen,
So
I mean,
what's the
I got to be
the other
honest,
option is
bro. A couple
Russia.
days might be good. I mean, like,
What's
you
that?
know, a few days of starvation. You know, I think me and you both could handle a few
Well, we're
days
not going to
without
starve
being-
in a few days, but 3 months later, we're having to elbow some little old lady so we can get our bag of rice.
I don't know. I had like bags of rice show up on my porch yesterday that I don't know where they came from.
You
Don't
probably
eat
shouldn't
it.
eat them.
That's sketchy.
I know, beans and rice, like several bags of beans and rice just showed up on my porch. I have no idea where they came from.
Oh my!
That's somebody's
goodness.
bags of beans and rice.
I know.
It was supposed to go two doors down, and now you got grandma's dinner.
I
Oh,
know.
that's
You know,
rough.
I mean, I walked around and asked people if it was their beans and rice, and nobody claimed it.
So I guess I've got free beans and rice. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just
Free
how
beans
this
and
works.
rice. I grew up on beans and rice. What's wrong with beans and
Me
rice? That'll
too.
feed you
Who
for a
said
while.
anything was wrong with beans and rice? I
Beans
said
and
free
rice,
beans.
you mix them together. That's breakfast. The
And you put 'em in
dinner
a
is in the
tortilla.
evening. Yeah. What's that?
And you put them in a tortilla. I grew up with my grandma making tortillas every morning and a fresh pot of beans and rice, and that's what we ate.
Yeah. Yeah. We didn't make the tortillas. We didn't have tortillas. If we were in Guatemala, my mom, we would go, and that was the nightly activity. They would send one of the children to go pick up the tortillas from the corner lady, the tortilla lady. And there would be
Yeah.
3 or 4 little old ladies just sitting there making tortillas on an open fire. And then you would bring your basket and you'd get a handful or whatever. You come back and that's what you would have tortilla with, whatever it is you're having for dinner that night. But when we were here in the States, that wasn't a thing. You didn't get tortillas because there wasn't a corner lady making them, and my mom didn't make them. So we had just rice and beans. No fresh tortillas.
My grandma was the stereotypical little Mexican lady
Now I'm
making
hungry,
tortillas
guys.
every morning with bacon grease.
Oh man!
Oh, yeah, that's the good
You had
stuff
to
there,
throw
yeah.
in
Yep.
the bacon grease.
Have you-
man.
With
have
the
you
bacon
seen-
grease.
So have you seen the lady on YouTube that cooks? What is the name of the YouTube channel? So there's this little Mexican woman. She lives in I think Michoacan, and she lives on a ranch. And her kids started uploading videos of her cooking. And if you watch the earlier videos, I mean, it's like they're cutting with whatever they got, and they're cutting on this chunk of wood, and you can tell it's like it's down home style cooking, and that's essentially like what the channel is her showing everybody how she cooks just whatever meal, right? But the channel's like got like 1.5 million subscribers, and every episode gets 100,000 plus views. I mean, the lady's
crazy.
a millionaire at this point just from
Wow.
YouTube ad revenue. But
That's awesome.
you know, like what she's cooking, she's growing in the backyard. You know what I'm saying?
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know, I don't think that it's like my grandmother, both of my grandmothers, man, they used to cook these big meals. And you don't realize how much you miss a little thing like that until they're gone and they, it's not a thing anymore. I still remember, growing up when, Sunday mornings, mom would cook a big breakfast and then she'd already have the chicken in the oven for lunch. And I still remember fussing about what we were having for lunch, because that's what teenagers did. And I look back and say, man, wish she'd cook me a chicken for lunch, It just, man, get old.
Well, yeah,
fast.
I mean that's some of the that's really weird because some of the food that my mom used to make, my mom's not that good of a cook, but there were certain meals that she made that just reminds you of your childhood, at least the good parts of your childhood. And so you would she used to make this like it's a Puerto Rican dish, but it's essentially like sugar, milk, and really, really fine cornmeal, and then some cinnamon, and that's pretty much it. And she used to make that all the time, and it had been years since I've had it. But now I make it for my kids, and my daughter likes it, my son does not. But I wanted them to experience something that I grew up eating in the mornings.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll
That's
appreciate
awesome.
it when they get older. They don't care about it.
Well,
now.
yeah, I mean, you get nostalgic and you look back and you say, damn, I should have. But that's life, right? Just part of
Yeah,
it.
you're like, I should have paid more attention. I should have
I know.
learned how to do that so I could make that.
Yeah, that's
It's
what
a
the
lot
internet's for. You kidding me? I wasn't going to ask her. She would have been like, you just throw some stuff in the pot and, it just comes out and it's fine. And they're like, what are you talking about? Do you got salt? No salt? What are you doing here? She doesn't know. I don't think she remembers.
My mom still, every holiday, makes this big pan of yeast rolls, right? They're all homemade and they rise overnight. And she, oh man, I shouldn't even be talking about them. I get so hungry. I can't see straight. And it is a tradition it's something that generation after generation after generation have learned from her. And it came from her mother. And I think that's so cool to look back and begin that process of, teaching the next generation something that happened before. I just think that's so cool,
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, we should probably get on topic. Hey, but I do want to ask you something, Jill.
Sure.
There's this shop owner.
Uh-huh.
He started this group and he called the group the Super Appropriate. What is it? What is it, Lucas?
What?
Gentlemen's
I'm gonna look
Club.
It up.
Super appropriate.
No. It wasn't Gentlemen's Club. That sounds.
That sounds
it was something like that.
Hold on, I'm gonna look it up.
Gentlemen's Group or. Hey, did I tell you he messaged me the other day, wanted me to call him and tell him about my pay plan? And I said,
yeah, I told you to tell him that. Oh, Dave Roman wrote it for me. Why don't you ask him? So he doesn't have that.
Well,
you don't have the cojones to call me.
Did I ever tell you? He told me that. I need you to call me by 9.
Yeah, get out of here.
You need you to call him what?
By 9. He's like,
by
I
9.
Need you to.
It's okay.
I'm
I need you
to call
explain
me by
this
9
to me, and
a.m.
I need you to call me by 9. Like, whatever, dude. Get out of here.
He was kind. He was polite, but I know a lot of people.
No, what are you talking about? That's super douchey. What are you talking about? I need you to call me by 9. It's like, how about I don't call you at all?
Compared to the way that other people speak of him, I guess my point is he was very kind to me
because he wants something
from you. Demanding I do something.
He was kindly demanding something of you.
Yes.
It's the Super Appropriate Group of Gentlemen Shop Owners.
What?
The whole thing. Super Appropriate Group of Gentlemen Shop Owners. And there's a picture that might be Ernest Hemingway. I have no idea. I don't know whose picture that is.
Dutch is so on fire about it. He's so pissed
What's that?
off.
Me?
Dutch is so pissed off.
That they're sharing the group? Just because he got kicked out. But and so they shared this group, and this group's been around for a while or whatever. But they've attracted some fairly prominent shop owners on there. And they turned it into kind of a mastermind. And they have some interesting stuff on there. I'm not part of the group. I'm not cool enough, but whatever. And
you have to be like accepted into the group.
Yeah. So they have to, and not only that, like they vet you pretty hard, because I have friends that have tried to get in and they've been vetted pretty hard. But I think I was in there at one point, disagreed with the guy who started the group. Just disagreed with him. I said, well, I think maybe this way is a better approach, or, I don't like to do it that way. I do it this way. But because I disagreed with him, I got booted, like immediately booted.
Oh, wow.
And then banned, and then he blocked me, and then he unblocked me. It turned into a whole thing. But they post this thing on there, and then like woman after woman, shop owners, like, the hell, what's up with the name?
Is there any women in it?
Well, yes, there is, and that's their like reasoning for not doing anything about the name. The name is just, I get the name, like the name would have been funny as a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing, but now they're actually like they're trying to turn it into a legit like coaching group, like mastermind / coaching group. But then now change the name. Like, you got to change the name. But they didn't think that was necessary, because as they started putting women in the group, they were asking the women that were in the group, do you want us to change the name? And they were like, no, it's fine. It's fine. And then I said, well, the reason why they're saying it's fine is because they're already in the group. Like, and also, if you disagree with anybody in the group, you get kicked out. So maybe they're not the people to ask. What's that?
Most women aren't going to even try to join that group.
Exactly. That's what I said. I said, why don't you ask women that aren't in the group whether they would be willing to join a group called whatever gentlemen, and see how they feel about it. And then so that's what I posted that publicly. And Mike messages me and he goes, man, we're getting a ton of applications for this group. I thought that was ironic. I'm like, okay, mostly all men, or probably all men, right?
Yeah.
What do you think of the name? Do you think that's a good name?
Probably not a good name for an all-inclusive group. If you're going to include, have a diverse range of people in the group, probably you don't want to call it the Gentleman's Club or Gentleman's Group.
I think it was supposed to sound like old-timey. And that was the look, and like the logo. They created a logo, which, by the way, if you copy any portion of that logo, this guy will threaten to sue you into oblivion just for copying the smallest portion. The color scheme can't be matched. This font has been trademarked by me and only me, and you can't even use this font. Screw that guy. Anyway, sorry.
Screw you guys, I'm going to.
Oh, man.
Anyway, it's not the way we wanted to start off.
I know, right? Jill, what's up?
Just hanging out, just day to day, just trying to get through this pandemic and, make things happen.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad you're here with us tonight. David is very hard to settle down sometimes. So, need somebody to put him in his place. Pretty thankful you're here.
Yeah.
David, what are we talking about? You make me do the intro, but you never tell me what we're talking about. What are we talking about, David?
Well, we're going to talk about this gentleman's club, and then past that.
All beware. David is really big into the grudge thing, right? And I don't mean that in a weird, not. Crazy.
Forgive and forget. You absolutely forgive and forget, or at least don't let it bother you. Like don't.
That's not you, bro. That's not
that's
you.
That's absolutely me,
bro.
Look, unless
listen, I'm sorry. That's not
the
you.
guy.
Under your skin.
And things irritate me. I will say that. And when they come back up, the irritation is present again. And you're like, oh, yeah, that's right. This guy's a douche. Thanks for reminding me.
I'm really irritated by
David.
that, yeah.
David, do you patch sidewalls of tires?
What's that?
God,
do I? The sidewall of tires.
You plug them. You don't patch them. You plug them.
Oh.
I had a customer. I have a customer. I have a customer. He came in. He's got this 95 GMC Sierra. I mean, it is beat to hell, but he loves it, and he still drives it. And he whenever it breaks down, he fixes whatever's wrong with it. He doesn't care. He rides his motorcycle, and he's got this GMC pickup, and that's just what he has, and it's whatever. And he, one of the times he came in was a failed spider injector unit, and not only that, the lower intake had corroded away, that it was causing this massive vacuum leak. So it needed a lower intake, that whole aluminum chunk, plus the spider injector, plus all these gaskets and this, that, and the other, aside from whatever the hell else it needed. And we get it all fixed. The bill's like $2,000 or whatever. And I look, and he's got, like, when he dropped it off, he's got like this string of tire plug hanging out the sidewall of his tire, and it's holding air. And it's like this big all-terrain tire, and this thing is just like sticking out. And I'm like, hey, what's up with this tire plug? And he's like, yeah, I had a hole in the side of it, and so I plugged it. It's holding air. And I'm like, that's not safe. And he goes, yeah, I don't have money for tires. I got to drop $2,000 here on this injector thing. I'm like, okay, you should get that fixed as soon as you can, though.
Well, and then you post a picture of it in your Google My Business, bro.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
The guy was pulling something out of the thing. Anyway, don't get me started on that. So, like a year later, and then he shows up once a year. That's what he shows up, because something broke on the car or on the truck. He shows up a year later. Thing's still there. This time, I think he needed like a clutch, and I don't know. It was like $3,000. I bought him tires. I didn't charge him for it. I just bought him tires. He's loyally been coming back to me ever since. Yeah. What's that? Yeah, because I'm like, oh, thanks for dropping $3,000. I felt bad, is what it was. Is he's dropping $3,000 with me, but he still doesn't see the need to fix this tire issue. And I'm like, no. We're gonna need to fix this tire. So I bought him 2 tires.
I cannot, in good conscience, let you roll on a tire like that.
I knew he wasn't gonna get rid of the car. Yeah, everybody says, oh, I'm just gonna get rid of it. It's like, okay. And then a year later, they come back. He wasn't. No, he didn't say that. He was like, yeah, it's fine. I'll deal with it later. Like, okay.
Yeah.
So what were we talking about?
I don't know. You rudely.
This thing is going so sideways. I'm sorry, Jill.
Listen, you didn't even tell me what we were talking about. So
we were supposed to talk about diversity. And Jill and I had this fantastic conversation about diversity in the industry, and she's like, well, they need to talk about inclusivity and making people comfortable with the shopping experience at your store, because it is very easy to make people feel slighted by, even if they're seemingly innocent reactions, but you need to at least be conscious about it and be a little bit more aware, and do your best to make people feel welcome. Yeah. Do I have the gist right?
Yeah, totally. And, not make assumptions right up front, and be comfortable with asking questions, about how people maybe want to be addressed, about their relationships, about all those different things. It's important. And, one of the situations I think that kind of kicked us off, and David and I were talking about, was oftentimes when I go into somewhere, and I've been into places to get my car fixed, ironically, and they will ask me if I need to call my husband, or I will be in.
Come on, hold on. When was the last time that happened? You need to call your husband. I would get murdered over the phone. Somebody will come through my phone and kill me, like rip my throat out if I ask, do you need to ask your husband if that's okay?
The last time this was happened was God, I don't know, so a few years ago, and I had my BMW I was working at a Mercedes dealer, and across the street was a BMW specialty shop, and my convertible top on my E36 had stopped working. So I took it over there to get it fixed, and it needed some of the little sensors and things, and it was going to be a bunch of money. And the guy knew that I was one of the advisors at the Mercedes dealer. And he still asked me if I wanted to talk to my husband about the cost of the repairs.
What in the
man.
crap?
Yeah.
You know, I can see saying, are you the individual responsible for purchase decisions in regards to the vehicle?
Yeah.
Are you in charge of the maintenance and repairs for your vehicle? Is there anyone else I need to discuss this with that might be like possible? I've never even had to ask that. I've just been like, hey.
So
Let's
that was
fix your
part of my
car.
check-in sheet back pre-COVID when we did check-in sheets. Is they would say, "Are you the?" I can't remember the wording, but
Are you
it
the
was
decision
essentially
maker?
asking, "Are
Yeah.
you making the purchasing decision for this vehicle?
Mhm.
If not, write down who I need to talk to, because if it's a college student and I need to talk to mom and dad about it, they need to write that down so I can.
Mhm.
I don't have to
So
repeat
you know
myself.
the right person.
Yeah, and whoever needs to get the spiel needs to get the spiel, but just write down who needs to get the spiel. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't ask, like, if I'm already on the phone having a conversation with somebody about the cost of this, that, and the other, I'm just going to assume that's the person I need to talk
You're
to.
going to assume that that's who you're going to talk to. In a lot of cases, like one of the big things, like I'll go into a place with my wife, and they don't automatically assume that that is my wife. They will assume that that is my sister. They will sometimes, because she is a bit younger than me, ask if that is my daughter. And I think those make you feel really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right.
When you go into places, because you don't feel like when you go in there that you're seen for who you are as a person, and you end up having to explain, or in most cases it's just like whatever. Maybe you won't go back, but those are really good opportunities, because if you create a welcoming environment in your shop for a diverse group of people, you will get a level of loyalty from those people. If you have a gay or lesbian couple come in, and you acknowledge their relationship, or that, they will feel comfortable coming back to you, and they will use your shop. We have businesses and restaurants and things in town that we use all the time, because when we go there, we feel comfortable. And I think, that's super important, especially in this day and age.
So what is it that makes it comfortable? I guess that's my curiosity in this, because I've walked into, so we have a very heavy Mexican population here in Kansas City. Like there's a certain part of Kansas City, Kansas, that is, the signs are in Spanish and everybody in the store speaks Spanish, and I am 100% Hispanic, but I look white. And so I walk in there, and in their super broken English, they try to communicate to me in English, and I get it, but they're making assumptions about me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
if you're speaking to everybody else in Spanish, and just because my skin tone's not the right color, you're gonna then stop what you're doing and then try to speak to me in super broken English. I can understand that. Like, I get what they're trying to do, but at the same time, just treat me like everybody else. Like, I get it. And maybe I don't have the right look or whatever, but I don't know. I'd reply in Spanish and I just rattle off whatever. Like, it's okay. Just talk to me in Spanish.
It's really interesting that you say that, because my wife is from Chile. So she speaks fluent Spanish. What's interesting is, all of a sudden, Amazon started emailing her all in Spanish. She did not pick that. Kaiser as well started emailing her and sending her all correspondence in Spanish. So they made an assumption, I guess, somehow, that she would want this correspondence in Spanish, and she does not. And, it's things like that. Like, there's not an agreement about that. So
And I guess that's my question: is how do you even broach the issue? I have a customer who's like Mexican. Like his name is Joe Padilla. He's 100% Mexican.
Yeah.
He speaks perfect English and perfect Spanish. Now, he's he like served in the Marines. He considers himself 100% American, and therefore he speaks English. Don't address him in Spanish. He does not appreciate it. He won't reply to you in Spanish. He wants you to speak to him in English, and only in English. That's just the way he is. And I can understand that. I go ahead.
I think just asking people, like,
you think?
Yeah,
that's uncomfortable to me. Like, I don't know. Like, if you walked in with your wife and like, I just wouldn't bring up a situation. Like, I would avoid saying something that would make the assumption that that person is your sister, your cousin, your wife, whatever. Like, I am not going to say anything that even broaches the issue, because I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not comfortable asking, because I don't want to make assumptions either. Like, so
you're also not going to make that assumption, and I'm okay. Like, in certain situations, people will ask, and I'm okay with that. Like, is this your partner? And a lot of times in those situations, especially if I'm building a relationship with the business, I will bring it up. And I will just say, hey, this is my wife, and she might be picking things up for me. So, you might want to put her on.
Yeah, that would make things so much easier for me.
To kind of just put it out there.
But then you were talking, when we talked on the phone, you were even talking about the reaction. Because if you came in and you said, hey, this is my wife, so-and-so, and she might be picking it up later on, it's like, okay, fine. Like, I don't have to make assumption. I don't have to ask, and like, it's whatever, right?
Yeah.
We'll just carry on. But you said, you were even talking about when you have to mention that this is your wife, people would give you a strange reaction, be like, what? Okay.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like, oh, and you can tell by their initial reaction, like, that they are shocked. Because one of the things about, like, my wife and I is people mostly in California, and they will assume that I am a lesbian, and which is totally fine. But like my wife, she's undercover, so she has to come out to just about everybody that doesn't know her, just because in terms of her appearance, she just appears just to be, she doesn't appear gay. If there's a way to appear gay these days, you never know. So, there's a lot of nuances to it. I'm older. We live in California, but I can tell you from the traveling that I do with RepairPal, I've been in some very uncomfortable situations through the South, through the Carolinas.
Lucas.
Yeah.
Listen,
we're going to make you answer for all of the people in both Carolinas.
You can't group me with those people.
Don't disparage them. 90% of our audience is in North Carolina. What are you talking about?
You can't group me with anybody. I'm one my own.
Yeah. And I think the big thing is that there's diversity everywhere. So there's, gay people, trans people, there's women, there's everywhere, and making your shop a really inclusive place and not making huge assumptions and accepting people for where they're at will get you more business and create a loyal customer base.
Well, look, so I'm going to bring up something that my wife always tells me. And she's like, you don't ask the questions I would have asked, right? You didn't ask this, and you didn't ask what color their dog was, and you didn't, those aren't my things, right? I'm kind of like, hey, tell me about your car.
Yeah.
I don't go into the in-depth conversations. My wife.
Yeah.
And she is all about having that conversation and learning and understanding and learning about who you are, once you get to know her, and you were very lucky. She doesn't talk to many people like she sat and talked with you for what, an hour and a half or something.
Yeah,
like
a
that.
long time.
She doesn't, she finds people that she wants to talk to and learn about them and have a conversation. So she'll go through a series of questions, and she may ask those questions, and she'll do the same with clients on the front counter. From her, it doesn't come across as prying or trying to figure out, why are you this? Why are you that?
Mm-hmm.
It comes across as I'm trying to learn about you.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas for me personally, kind of how I come across it is that, look, I love everybody. Right. I mean, 100% straight up, no BS, no fluff. Like I genuinely believe if we can all just try and get along, right? I want the best for everybody. I understand there's people out there that they're not interested in that concept. They're not interested in this kind of like neutral, just, live your own life, go your own way, do what you want to do as long as what you do isn't directly affecting me.
Yeah.
Then it's really none of my business. It doesn't mean that I have to live your life for you,
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think that it scares me in some senses because I don't want someone to come into my facility and think because I didn't ask that I was uncomfortable with it or I was this, that, or the other in regards to that. Mm-hmm. However, in the same respect, I want them to know that it doesn't matter what their personal choices are. I care about them. I want what's best for them. I want what's best for their automobile.
And you want their
so I think that comes off,
so they
though.
can
What's that?
Do what?
I didn't hear what you said, David.
No, I was going to rattle on. No, what did you say first? You go first.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, and one of the things that you've said that I really like is like kind of accepting people for where they're at and realizing like we all want to be happy, and life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness
Absolutely
is important, and as long as like what makes you happy and what your how you live your life isn't like adversely affecting how I live mine, I will defend you to be able to live it however you want to live it. Like one of the things I really appreciate about David is that I am from Oakland, California. My grandmother was an illegal alien. She came here illegally. My wife is a green card holder. I live in Oakland, which is arguably probably the most liberal town in the country. But so with David, we've had some really good like back and forth on Facebook and
call them arguments. It's okay.
Yeah, well, but there's a respect there, and I think in a lot of, especially this last year, like there's a lack of respect for each other and how we live our lives, and that's really hard, and especially in an industry where there is, there's some diversity, but there's not a lot of diversity in the industry. There's not a lot of women in the industry. There's not a lot of, diverse races in the industry. And, going forward, like, how do we make it a more welcoming place for everybody? There's a tech shortage. So, there's a tech shortage. There's a shortage of people in the industry. So why is there not more diversity? Because
I think that really depends on the area of the country, though. It really, because I will say, like, if you go into that area of Kansas City that I was talking about, there's a shop in every corner, and it's some guy who quote unquote works on cars, and they are doing some hacky stuff.
Oh yeah,
but sure. Unfortunately, it's almost like the kids in the neighborhood that want to become a mechanic. They see what those shops are doing, and they think that that's the way you do things.
Yeah,
and they don't necessarily venture off into the neighboring area to go find work that is, not at a hacky shop.
Yeah.
And so I think, and that might just be because of that's what they're comfortable, or they know the person, or the families know each other, or whatever, right? That's just where they're comfortable working at, and so that's what you end up with. And some of these areas are economically depressed. Like these are poor areas, and so the shops they're not charging the top labor rate. They're not well equipped necessarily. They're just doing what they can get by with. And so you almost have to stop and go, well, what can we do about that? It's not as easy for them to raise their labor rate.
Yeah.
Because their neighborhood can't afford it. Like that's just not what they can do. These aren't Taj Mahal buildings. These are like old gas stations. And I mean, there's just several neighborhoods in Kansas City where you just drive through and you see shop after shop after shop.
And little
and
hole in
they're
the wall. Yeah.
They look like hole in the walls, and they're probably operated like holes in the walls, and they're probably not making a lot of money, and their technicians aren't getting paid that well. And, just everything that we talk about being problems in the industry are present in these areas. I don't know what to do to fix it. You know what I'm saying? Like they're from the neighborhood, they live in the neighborhood, their shop is in the neighborhood. It's not like they're going to get up and go, well, I'm going to go to the Richie Rich side of town and open up shop there and double my labor rate. That's not what they're going to do. I mean, they're just going to run their business as best they can. But at the same time, we're getting to the point in the industry where they may not be able to continue their business without getting tooling up, without increasing their expenditure on training. And so they're in a really precarious situation, and I don't know what to do to help them. If they can be helped, I don't know. I mean, that's really difficult.
It's really interesting that you say that, because, at RepairPal, we have areas of the country where we have gaps in our coverage. Like El Paso, Texas is one of them. Greenfield, North Carolina was another one. So in an attempt to meet shops in those areas, I have been boots on the ground there many times in these smaller areas. And
you see the reality.
You see the reality. Like in El Paso, we now have a couple shops in that area, but we probably, I think in a week-long visit, I visited about 30 shops in the area and sat down and talked to the shop owners and tried to figure out, how to get them to raise their standards, how to get them to get involved with training, to make sure that they have the right training and the right tools and equipment, even offering to provide them with some of those resources, so that, we could have coverage for our various partners. And a lot of them, were not interested in that. And their labor rates were very low. And I think, in a matter of time, those shops are going to be obsolete. They're just not going to be able to keep up with the technology. They're not going to be able to work on those cars. And a lot of the, quote, diversity is in those shops. So it's how do you bring those shops and get them to raise their training to a level, that they're going to be successful in 5-10 years from now.
Yeah. And that's almost, and that's a conundrum, right? In 5 to 10 years, they may be obsolete, unable completely to work on vehicles that are in their neighborhood. These will be 10-year-old vehicles at that point, and they're going to have a certain level of technology, and they just haven't tooled up, and they haven't trained for it, and they just, they don't have they're just releasing the 1234 into the atmosphere and trying to refill it, and maybe they buy a machine, and then they realize, oh crap, every vehicle through here has got a 134 mix in there, and we're going to have to charge a ton of money. And I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean,
but it's like,
it's a nice ideal, I think, to say that we need to bring in more diversity, but it's difficult to say how it can actually be done.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the ways is there's not auto shops in many schools anymore. And the trades have really been like put at like kind of, I don't really know how to say this, but it's like not what people want to do. It's not, we had spoken about how when I went to trade school to become a mechanic, my father was very, very upset about it because women don't do that. And he didn't see it as a field. He was like, one of his things was, 1, you'll never be accepted, and 2, you'll never make any money. Now, both of those things in the long term turned out to not be true at all. But I think that's the overall feeling of the trades. And how do we rehab that reputation? How do we get schools to open up auto shop programs in the school and fund them with current equipment and present that to students, to the diverse range of students that are in schools now as a viable option? Everybody wants to code, everybody wants to do data science, all these very sexy careers. But how do you get people to go into the trades and make it friendly for them?
Well, specifically from those areas that we're talking about.
From all areas, though. And it's like, for instance, Jill, I think you even met Bridget, but you've talked to Bridget a number of times.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you right now, we've actually recorded something about it in the past. Bridget is a phenomenal technician and a phenomenal apprentice, a phenomenal worker. She's a real asset to our business. And one of the things that we discovered through having Bridget work for us is that the primary reason that those young ladies in the whether it's the automotive class or whether it's another skilled trade class in the high school or the college, the main reason they don't continue is they're never given opportunity. And, one of the things that I have seen, and we've talked about this, we've got a new young lady who's going to come on as an apprentice. And I got a call saying, hey, we just want to make sure you have an opening because we don't know if anybody else in the area would be receptive to this. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, she's a girl. Are you effing kidding me? Why wouldn't you want to hire somebody that's productive like that? Why wouldn't you want to give them that opportunity?
Why would you give a crap what their bits were?
Yeah.
I mean,
what difference does it
makes
make?
Zero difference to me. Well, I mean, here's the situation is the one thing we do have to watch in our shop is our guys become extremely protective of Bridget. And I think you see that somebody commented on a post that had her picture in it a while back and had something derogatory to say.
Yeah.
And I had to have counseling hour with 3 technicians saying, listen, people are going to say what they're going to say. We don't have to respond to that. That's their business. They can believe what they want to believe. We know better. It's cool. Chill out. We don't have to go find out where he lives. I promise it'll be fine.
We don't need to go knock on his door.
Exactly. And I think that it does not make a difference. Like David said, what the bits are, right?
Yeah.
Human being, right? And I think as a society, if we were to get to the point that we recognized each other as human beings first, recognize we all have things going on, we all have different beliefs. My daddy told me when I was little, son, worry about living your life first. And I've that's always stuck with me. And I spent a number of years worrying and stressing and frustrated and, anxiety causing, anger causing situations because other people weren't doing what I thought they should be doing in any given scenario. And I'm going to tell you what, my life got significantly better when I listened to my daddy and started living my own life instead of worrying about everybody else's. I'm going to do me. They can do them. Doesn't matter whether I agree with it or not. That's their business. I appreciate them. I love them. I care about them. I want what's best for them. and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that, and as we began to have some of these conversations within some of the groups and some of the Facebook pages where these things were being talked about, I did not realize there were quite the number of people who would stand up and say, I can't believe you would allow that.
Mm-hmm.
What? Well, I would kick them right out my front door.
Yeah. I think this last year has shown a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of where people are at, a lot about what people value.
Yeah.
And it's been wonderful in some ways and really disheartening in other ways. And, wonderful in that there's a lot of people stepping up and really helping other people and, leaning in and, financially helping out their service providers, their hairdressers. Like I know when we're going into restaurants now, we are definitely over tipping, just because it's important to help take care of each other.
Yep.
And I don't think there's enough of that out there. And, we could have very different views and sit down at the same table because what we do have in common is that we're human. And, we all have families and we all have things that, are important to us. And, I think it's just having a general respect for what's important to different people.
Right. So it really comes down to somebody's mindset then when we're talking about reactions and making people feel comfortable. I think at the end of the day, like it's fine to tell them, hey, you shouldn't care, this, that, and the other. Maybe people do care and it does bother them. But at the same time, you're running a business. And I think it comes down to professionalism.
Mm-hmm.
Be professional in your reaction. Does that make sense?
Exactly.
Fine. You have a problem with two women marrying each other. Okay, but still be professional about it. Be professional how you address them. Be professional how you react. If you do find out that they are married, be professional about how you deal with that.
Yeah.
Be respectful and be professional because at the end of the day, they're customers. They need to be taken care of. And
and they've come to you
that's
for help.
What's that?
Yeah. And they've come to you for help.
Yeah, and they've come to you for you to help and do the best you can. And you should do that with absolutely everybody.
Absolutely.
And what I could tell you about like the the LGBQ community is that if you treat people just with respect, you will get an insanely loyal customer base out of it. Because as a community, we're pretty interconnected and everybody talks. And oftentimes people, like in any other community, like a church, you ask like, hey, who should fix my car? Or who should I get to fix my roof? So if you build your relationship as a welcoming, accepting place where they can get their car fixed right, like you will gain an insanely loyal customer base out of that. And not just from an entire community. Like even here in Oakland, there are certain shops that, people go to.
Do you think it's because they've made an effort? Like, have they made an explicit effort? Or do you think it's just, hey, they were very nice to me. They were very respectful. Because I don't know
nice
that I'm...
And respectful, yeah.
Yeah. There's a website. I think it's called Gayborhood.
Yeah, there's like Gayborhood, there's Pink Spots, there's a lot of different.
Okay. Well, this one was specifically calling my shop, wanting me to advertise with them. And I didn't, but you could see a shop jumping in there and saying, okay, I'm going to specifically market to these people. And that's fine. I guess, I don't know. I try not to pander. Like, I really hate pandering. That just drives me bananas. But there's one thing, if you're specifically, I'm talking about like displaying maybe signage, or, putting the rainbow flag out front or whatever. Like, that's a shop that's pandering to a certain degree.
No,
they like,
if you were not gay or lesbian and you had a gay flag out in front of your shop, then that would be. If you weren't, if you were, then you're more just kind of, that would be more appropriate.
Announcing it. Yeah. So I mean, I guess that's my point is, so there's a franchise in Kansas City, and they're all over the country. They're called Christian Brothers.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure you're familiar, and you don't have to say anything if they're a huge customer of yours, but they pander, and I have a huge problem with it, because one, there shouldn't be any intermixing. Like, yes, I am a Christian, but I don't, and I'm, like, you can see it in my social profiles. People know, at least people that look know, but it's whatever, right? But when you walk into my shop, I don't have a giant cross. I don't have memorabilia. I'm not trying to get into the doctrine behind it or anything like that. We can have that conversation if somebody wants to PM me. But I don't. It's not overt, and you could make it low key. I remember I kind of kicked myself because I should have made the name of my shop the Golden Rule Auto Repair, and I think. Isn't what's his face from Auto Text Me? Isn't that his name? The name of his shop?
Yeah.
Isn't it Golden Rule?
Yeah, well, he's got a couple of them.
Yeah. So back in the day, I used to sell parts to this like one man shop, and he's a super sweet guy. He never bought anything from me, but he was super nice to me every time he came into the shop trying to sell him stuff. And that was the name of the shop, and I always admired the name of the shop. It was very low key. It wasn't overt. Like, he didn't have Bible verses all over the walls or whatever. He wasn't pandering. I think the name of the shop is pandering. Like, it's trying to lower people's guard artificially. They haven't earned it. You see what I'm saying? Like, you haven't walked into that shop, and they haven't made it abundantly evident that they're looking out for your best interests first and foremost. And I think that's almost what I try to avoid. I almost try too hard to avoid doing that. In the way I market and the way, I present myself. I am okay with whoever walking into my door. I don't give two craps. I don't care. Like I said, I don't care what the bits look like or what bits like to mush together. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
You do you, I'll do me. It's fine. Everything. At the end of the day, I'm trying to be professional, respectful, and I just want to take care of you and your vehicle. That's it. And I hope that's at least appreciated. And I guess that's what I'm asking, is that at least appreciated in the community versus something like a Christian Brothers that they're bringing people in because they've lowered their guard. These evangelicals or whoever they identify as quote unquote Christian, and so they're walking into this building thinking, well, the name is Christian Brothers, like they're going to take care of us. They've got the Jesus fish, and that no, you have no idea.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say. Like, I usually, when I look for places, I will sometimes, especially if I'm traveling, I will look at like a guide that,
Which guides? I would like to know which ones they advertised. Just kidding. Yeah.
But just, especially when I get out of my own neighborhood and out of my own state, basically, just when I'm traveling, I will look because I do have concerns at times about my safety in certain areas. And especially if we're going on a vacation or something like that, I will look and we will research certain areas to make sure that we're going to be comfortable there. So that's kind of an added layer. And in turn, if I'm going to have service people in my house, if I'm going to take my car somewhere, I will do a certain amount of research to make sure.
Is it enough to mark yourself that you're accepting on Google? Did you see that
I think
Google,
so.
like My Business, added that?
Oh no, I haven't even seen that. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
So yeah.
I mean, I would think, so you could
But
sort.
who wouldn't check
yeah.
that? I mean, other than people that don't check their Google My Business.
No, I think that
We'd
some
go,
people
no,
wouldn't.
I need
if
to
they
make
don't-
sure I
if-
leave that as a no.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of people wouldn't check that, and that's fine. And I think that's actually a good thing. So that way, when you know when you go in what
Yeah.
you're looking at, and that they're looking for certain, a certain type of clientele.
I think they were trying to like appeal to that, or at least not appeal. That isn't the right word. We're trying to speak to the 60%, because you're going to have the 20% that are either like they're going to be very accepting of it, or they're part of the community or whatever, and then you're going to have the 20% that are just they don't want them in there. They don't want to see
Yeah.
it. They don't want to hear about it. They're just uncomfortable with the whole thing, right? They're intolerant of it at all levels.
Yeah.
But then you have everybody in the middle, and that's why I was talking about reactions, being professional and respectful in the way you react to things, and don't be surprised if two women come in and they're married. Be understanding, be respectful, and just be conscious of it, and know, hey, I shouldn't make a face, or I got to be very careful about how I react to that, because I don't want to come off as even if it's innocent, I don't want to come off as disrespectful or weirded out or anything like that. I don't want to make them uncomfortable. So I need to be I have to be very deliberate about my reaction. And I don't think a lot of people put a lot of thought into it. And that's really why we wanted to have you on, is just you could at least speak to, I don't come back to a place if they make me feel weird just because I'm standing next to my wife. Does that make sense?
Exactly. No, and that's exactly it. It's just, making people feel comfortable and not making assumptions. And also once they are, once you are aware, then, in a normal situation, like if you acknowledge it, like if I'm picking up something, like if I drop my car off and that my wife usually picks it up, just addressing, hey, is your wife going to pick it up? When I had my shop, I would make those notes in my computer about, who was married to who and who the spouse was, and make, just some basic notes. So when people came in, that you had a better idea about who you were working with.
So let me ask a question. There's an added layer of complexity here, right? So as business owners, it's one thing for us to say that, right? But we have staff, and we have that service advisor on the front counter who may feel differently. We have that technician who may feel differently. We talk about being inclusive in the shops. We talk about making sure our workforce is diverse. How do we as owners create an environment? I want to be careful how I say this. If someone believes they don't want to associate with something like that, it bothers them. My belief is that's your choice. Your feelings are your feelings, and you should probably distance yourself from that situation, right? Because I don't need any trouble in the shop. If you can't control your mouth and you can't control an attitude, and we don't have that problem here, right? But how do we as owners approach this when it comes to having, a staff member who may not be open to this, may not be open to serving a client with respect and dignity? How do we go about that? I mean, I know how I would handle it. How would you handle it if you had a shop? What would you do?
Well, I think it's important that the culture of the shop is set by the owner, right? So in your shop, you have a inclusive environment. You have women at the counter, you have women technicians, and you create this environment in your shop. And if somebody doesn't, match that, how you feel, and or not even necessarily how you feel, but if somebody's going to have a problem working with a diverse clientele and that's what you have in your shop, then it's probably not a good fit for your shop.
Right.
And if somebody's just a loose cannon, I mean,
it's the loose cannons you got to worry about.
Yeah.
It's the ones that spout off at the mouth.
Exactly. If you have a woman working in your shop and the guy's there and the guys aren't going to be able to control what they're saying, to a woman at the counter, that's going to make your employees, uncomfortable. So you have to just, a lot of it is about fit. Are they a cultural fit for your shop?
Right. Well, that adds an even more aggressive layer of complexity. Tech shortage. We find ourselves
exactly
like
we need more women
coaching
in the
though,
industry, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm okay with that. It's just if you've got somebody in the shop, and look, I've got somebody in the shop that if you have the wrong political bumper sticker on the vehicle, he starts to spout off at the mouth. Which,
David, you don't need to extract yourself from the situation. You can admit it's you. It's okay.
I just told you, like I said, it's like I don't care. I don't. I may not agree with it, and it might bother me.
Listen, if you were to get a video of David's shop, you would watch him walk by the back of a car, looking at that sticker, saying, "I don't care. I 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 don't care."
Well, making a circle behind it. Yeah.
Yeah. You're right, but I have to communicate that with my tech too, because he'll throw a hissy fit and be like, what does it matter? Who cares? It's just a vehicle.
They're
like,
paying.
Just ignore the sticker.
Yeah. Get their money. Get the money.
Yeah. Just take care of it like it's anything else. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
And, one of the things that we had talked about in our conversation, David, was the women in the industry and why aren't there more women in the industry? And that was one of the things that prompted this podcast, and it all kind of rolls in together. It's like,
yeah, I think for a woman to want to get into the industry, they have to have a certain level of mental fortitude, which the majority of the woman population may not have. And in other words, like I could go into field A or field B, but field B I have to have like really tough skin because I will be like a very, very small minority. And I may get extra crap. I may, have people spouting off at the mouth. I may get a lot of sexist comments. I may get a lot of innuendo thrown at me. And they have to almost be okay coming into the industry knowing that that's going to end up hitting them. Where if they go to field A, they don't have to put up with any of that garbage.
Yeah.
And so they just go.
Maybe, so the industry needs to really look at that and, address it, because I've been in the auto industry for 30 years and have worked in shops as a technician, has worked as service advisors, worked at dealerships. And it is very much, you do have to have a bit of a thicker skin. And my kind of party line has always been to, make people aware when they do say something that is out of line, and that kind of crosses a line in a gentle way. I usually will address it like, "Hey, would you want your daughter to hear that?"
Right. Yeah.
And I've told people before, I'm somebody's daughter.
Right. Being a father of a daughter changes your whole life perspective. Being a father, period, changes your whole life perspective. When my little girl was born, I went to my mom and dad with tears in my eyes and I said, I am so sorry. I never realized how much you love me. I have screwed the pooch. Trust me, I get it. I see a lot of these issues where people are opening their mouths and saying things they shouldn't say. And we talk about the situation where we posted something and somebody said something nasty about Bridget putting bald tires back on a car or something like that. Yeah, and it's interesting because Bridget's like, you think that bothers me? Pff, I don't care. I work with your technicians every day. If that's the worst thing I hear,
Yeah.
And so that was reassuring. But one of the things that I found so interesting about it is that I was talking to a friend of mine who works with Jasper. And he said, do you know that the majority of our workforce is now female? Wow. And I said, really? And he said, yep. He said, you know why? I said, why? He said, because they're a whole lot better at men than the job. And I said, what do you mean? He said, there's specific jobs that they perform a far, far better job performance or quality control measure than their male counterpart. Yeah. And we were talking about transmissions, and he said small, detailed, intricate work, they think about what they're doing before they do it. And so I started paying attention to that when I came back. And that was actually during one of the Jasper tours where you go up and look at the factory, the whole 9 yards. And when I came back, I was noticing things after that conversation because they've done a whole study on it. They have all these great statistics. And when I came back, I was paying attention to the way that my wife operates versus how I operate, right? I am blunt force. I am, give me a problem, I will solve it. Even if it doesn't need to be solved, I'm at it.
Yeah.
Right. And she's methodical and she thinks it through and she thinks about what the consequences of this action or that action. And I'm over here like, could you just do it already? Then like, let's go. And she, so if we do the same task, it will take me an hour and a half and I'll be freaking out at her 30 minutes of planning and it will take her 20 minutes. Like, damn it. She beat me again. And it's a really cool thing when you dig into the thought process, and you can watch the same thing with Bridget, right? Like one of our guys will be out here struggling with a bolt and Bridget will walk in and she'll look at it and she'll turn her head this way, that way. And she'll say, oh, just do this. Right.
Yeah.
Damn it. And it's understanding a different thought process. We don't all think the same way. And it was really neat to see that at Jasper that they had found that this stereotypical view of women was incorrect, right? That women can be extremely valuable to our workforce, especially in the automotive field, because they are so detail oriented. So I think that it speaks volumes to that and seeing Bridget work in the shop, I'm going to tell you something that has made a believer out of me. I've got absolutely no doubt that she's going to become a fantastic technician, and we will look to find every female technician we can to put in the shop.
And it's hard to find them. And I think one of the things that I always talk about, because, the question comes up is why there's not more women in the automotive industry. And people will say like, oh, because of men. And I mean, that's like a very simple answer. But I think it goes back to, kids and how you're socialized. And there's boy toys and there's girl toys. And then, imagery in ads and movies and all different, forms of media. So you're constantly bombarded with different, like you go to McDonald's and they ask you, do you want the boy toy or the girl toy in the Happy Meal? It's like, why is there a boy toy and a girl toy? I grew up playing with all the boys in my neighborhood because they had all the toys I wanted to play with. I didn't want to play with my toys that people had given me. Those were not the toys I wanted to play with. I wanted to play with the toys that all the boys had. And I think as a society, if we want to open it up more and have it be more inclusive, it needs to start with, these are toys. Which toys would you like to play with? And, when you're choosing your electives, putting it out there with, these are the electives for everybody. And we have an auto shop, and really working hard to make that an inclusive environment where, young women will be comfortable. Because one of the things I know that my dad was fearful of when I had graduated from college and decided I didn't like that and that I was going to go to trade school. One of his big things was, how are they going to treat you there? They're not going to accept you there.
It's interesting. I think that as we look back over the past, 10 to 15 years, we've seen tremendous change in all aspects of life, right? I still remember talking to my uncle on the telephone in the kitchen with a cord that was like 10 miles long, right? The thought
it's
of
all stretched out because you had walked around, yeah.
Right. And the thought of a cordless phone was, unheard of. And so the world is changing in a mind-blowing pace. You said something that stuck out to me, and it really comes back to something that's happening in the schools in a big way, especially when it comes to skilled trades, period. Right. Now, I know we're on a completely different subject in a lot of ways, but the way that the guidance counselors, the way that the school system filters, and I want to say this very cautiously, the way that they help determine which student should go into a skilled trades class, in some ways, is almost as if saying you're not good enough for anything else.
It's entirely what they're doing. What are you talking about?
That's exactly what it is.
And I think across the board, you'll see that girls, on average, perform better academically than boys. And so the dumb boys, they can't manage anything past D's. They get shoved into shop class because they can't do anything else. And the girls, at least academically, are doing very well. They disproportionately end up going to college. And so they're moving into, white collar jobs, and the only ones left are the underperforming, academically at least, male counterparts, and that's it. Which is unfortunate there, because I don't think it properly represents the skills needed in the industry today, or what's going to be needed here in 5 to 10 years. You're going to need a very intelligent person, meticulous person, like you were talking about, Lucas. And so that a female student may need to be at least offered the option of going into a tech-heavy field like the automotive industry and say, hey, you have the aptitude and the mind for this. You're a problem solver. You're very good at it. You should consider the automotive industry. And that's not what's happening, which is entirely
look
unfortunate.
At the technology that's coming out.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
With the ADAS calibrations, the level of complexity and the level of detail-oriented.
You should see these screens. Have you seen Mercedes' new screen that they're going to be they're at least demoing to put into their vehicles? They're just like massive touch screens that go across the entire dash.
Oh yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
How are you going to diagnose and repair that properly if you don't? If the only thing you can do is steering and suspension work, just
you're not. I mean, you're not. I recently just bought a Toyota Mirai, which is their new hydrogen vehicle. It's my second one. And the level of tech on that vehicle is insane. So,
and are there any independent repair shops in your area that can handle that
absolutely
vehicle?
Not.
Yeah, you're going back to the dealership.
You're going back to the dealer. Toyota doesn't even want the tires changed by anybody but the dealer.
Yeah.
And they're so committed to that they're paying for it. So if you blow a tire during your warranty period, they will fix that tire for free.
And that's unbelievably cool technology that should be, instead of everybody going to electric vehicles, that's the big push
that's a
now.
whole other podcast, yeah.
Well, it irritates me. There's better technology out there that would just, hydrogen is, I get it, it's a little bit more dangerous, but there isn't. I had a gentleman, he was cleaning up a rental house. And we were looking at it for my mother, and he told me he had a diesel truck sitting outside, and he was talking about how they're talking about rolling out a gas tax. And now I guess somebody had mentioned, I think it was the transportation secretary, maybe it wasn't, but talking about taxing you per mile that you drive in an effort to, cut down on emissions or whatever. But I told him, I said, he's like, man, I don't know how you're going to be able to transition to 100% electric. GM saying that they're going to transition 100% electric by 2035. And I told him, I said, there's very good technology out there that is entirely viable, that, puts out water vapors into the atmosphere. I said, the problem is the infrastructure. Like, there's no refilling stations in Kansas City for hydrogen. Yeah. Otherwise, I would totally buy a hydrogen vehicle.
Yeah. There's only in California, and I think they're building some in Hawaii right now. But, I mean, in terms of technology, I think a hydrogen is an amazing resource. And my 2 hydrogen vehicles that I've owned, so I own my second one now, have been my favorite vehicles. They've run flawlessly. One of the really big things about them that people don't realize, so it's an electric vehicle, and the battery is charged by a hydrogen fuel cell. The battery is about 1/10 the size of a normal battery that you'd find in an electric car, because it's just continuously being charged by the hydrogen. My new vehicle gets about 400 miles to the gallon, to the pound, 400 miles to the tank. The previous model was about 300 miles to the tank. So that's a good.
That's a normal car.
That's a normal car.
You're not having to worry about the battery dying on you and then having to go to one of those supercharging stations like with Teslas.
Yeah.
There's no driving. I have a friend who just bought a Tesla, and he understands. He used to drive to Colorado constantly in his Subaru. Now he knows he can't. He has to go rent a car because the Tesla won't make it. And it's a cool car. I get it. It's a very cool car. It is. But like you're saying, like the batteries are enormous. The only way they're that's entirely all waste. Not only that, it's incredibly harmful to the earth. Creating that battery to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There are better technologies out there, but for whatever reason, people get hung up on this flipping electric vehicles. Anyway.
Yeah.
But I'll be servicing them. Don't worry.
Yeah, I'm sure.
David,
I'll be servicing them.
The orange wire.
Bring your Prius down here. I'll be happy to service that electric vehicle for you. Whatever.
Yeah.
Jill, if you don't want us to bring this up, you can say, no, I'll pass.
What is it?
RepairPal.
Yes, what about RepairPal?
I'll let Lucas tell you. Go, Lucas.
What are you talking about? Dutch hates RepairPal?
Dutch hates RepairPal. So here's the thing. So I signed up with RepairPal like in 2014. I mean, it's a long time ago. Okay. And I understood the value behind RepairPal, and not necessarily that they quote unquote price things out. I never saw the estimators being that big a deal. One, because most of the customers that called didn't know anything about the estimator. They were calling because RepairPal did such a good job with their SEO that when somebody typed in a problem, RepairPal's website would pop up first, because that's the way the website was designed. And so they would see this website that was offering some solutions, and then they would throw up there, hey, why don't you go to a RepairPal certified shop? And there my shop would be.
Yes.
That's how it used to work. And, it was like it's $200. It's always been $200 a month, and
Yeah.
sometimes you'd get a customer out of it. Sometimes you wouldn't. Maybe you'd get 2 or 3 in a month, or you wouldn't get any. It just, it was varying degrees of success. And then you guys hooked up with CarMax. Either they bought a section of you or whatever. And
yeah, CarMax is an investor in RepairPal.
yeah. And I have a CarMax like less than a mile from my shop. And oh man, now it's well worth the 200 plus the 10%, whatever.
Yeah.
Because I'm bringing in people with, slightly newer vehicles, but they're out of warranty. Most of them are. And they're nicer
and they
vehicles.
Have the Max Care warranty, yeah.
They may have the Max Care warranty, but maybe they don't. And if they don't, or they're just, it's expiring or whatever, 95% of the customers that come in spend good money with me. 70% of them are repeat customers. And they keep coming back again and again and again. Past, hey, this is past the initial repair. This is like they're coming in for oil changes, they're coming in for regular services, brakes, things that are not covered by MaxCare. And once the warranty runs out, they still come in.
They still come as your customer. Yeah.
Yeah, they're good customers. I find it incredibly valuable, and I understand everybody's like problem with the way like you have to do the diagnostic work first. And then you have to call in with a problem, and you might end up having to eat the diag, or you have to make the customer pay for the diag, and that's all dealing with the warranty company. And I get that.
Yeah,
I'm okay with it, but there are a lot of shops that are not, and they get really irritated with the billing system, and they think that they're robbing me because I'm not paying attention to it. One, I don't know why you wouldn't be paying attention to it, but two, like they think. I don't know. There's a lot of misconceptions, and there are a lot of dissenters. And I'm not trying to. I'll side on repair. I try to defend them online. I do.
Yeah.
But there are those that do not.
It depends on where you want to get business and how.
It's not even that though, Jill. They're saying that that like you take somebody like Dutch, who is like very anti-RepairPal. He thinks that RepairPal is ruining the industry, or at least helping to ruin the industry.
Well, a lot of people
maybe
have issues like with the estimator.
Dutch is unique, but he brings up this article from like the person that started RepairPal when they initially created it. They talked about how there are shops out there cheating people, and we're going to put a stop to it, and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, you know what? They've changed. That's not. I don't see that as being the way that they are.
I mean,
but
our mission
let me not speak to you. What do you think?
We're for customers who to help them with the repair and carrying of their car, but we're also for the shops that are invested in doing those things right. So when RepairPal first started, so I've been at RepairPal 8 years, and when we first started in 2007, it was just the estimator, and they built the estimator, and the estimator at that point was all hand built. And that was a product that they put out there for consumers. Shortly after that, there was a leadership change, and the estimator was still there, and then we created the Certified Shop Network. And that was built out of just asking people like, hey, David, if your daughter was in San Francisco and her car broke down, where would you tell her to go?
Yeah.
And most shop owners at that point said, I don't know. And then they asked the question, so what would you look for in a shop to send your daughter to? And they still didn't know. So over the initial auto team at RepairPal came up with a criteria for shops that involves, it's basic stuff. Are you up to date on your training? Do you have the right tools and equipment? And do you treat your customers well? Those are like the tenements of our program. It's just, are you a shop that's invested in doing it right? And then, we do have incredible SEO. That's,
I thought that was the big appeal at the beginning because,
it was at the beginning. Yeah.
I was a
in the
small
beginning.
shop and I didn't have the money or the presence to rank locally. But if I was a RepairPal certified shop, I could rank along with RepairPal.
And that's still an important part, is the SEO that we drive. But we get about, during normal times, we get about 6 million site visitors a month. During COVID, we actually have gotten in the 4 million range per month. So, we convert that traffic and send it to shops. But, as we grew as a company, we pivoted a little bit and created the partner platform. So what we've done is we've created a 3-sided marketplace where you have consumers, you have shops, and you have partners. And we partner with the partners, right? With CarMax, with USAA, with Verizon Wireless. Now, these are big partners that, as an individual shop owner, you don't really have a way to make a relationship with those big entities. But those big entities control a lot of people. CarMax with their Max Care warranty. And CarMax they do have service centers, but their primary objective is to sell cars and to recondition cars for
resell
for
them,
sale, not to do consumer-facing auto repair. So that's why they send them to our shops, because I don't know if you've ever bought a car from CarMax, but it's a pretty good experience. There's no negotiation. They treat you really well. They lay out the different options. You can buy the warranties. It's not a super hard sell. It's a good experience. And in 2016, they came to RepairPal because they wanted to stop sending a ton of work to franchise dealers. Because if a car goes to a franchise dealer, then
that makes sense. They're going to lose that customer.
They're going to lose that customer, right?
Yeah.
So if they keep them in a good quality independent, then
who doesn't sell cars? I'm not selling cars.
Who doesn't sell cars? Yeah, who doesn't sell cars? Then they can, retain those customers, hopefully as their own. And then during that time when they were vetting our network, because at the time, and I think now we have the largest network of independent shops that's not a franchise, that we don't, kind of have like a franchise light or it's hard to, it's hard to describe, but, we have an audience of these shops that we've vetted, that do a good job, and that we're comfortable sending customers to. So CarMax vetted us for a couple of years and then decided to invest. So they've invested in us and they're committed to making the partnership work. And it's working really, really well. The NPS, which is the Net Promoter Score, and our average shop in our network has a net NPS of in the 70s, which is really high. But through our partner programs, our Net Promoter Score is in the 80s. So it really proves to them that our shops do care and our shops do treat customers well. Yeah. And we also have, we've put together internal support team. So, you brought up the issue of the warranty company. If you as a RepairPal shop have an issue with the warranty company, you can call our in-house support team and we'll help mitigate that situation. We will be the neutral third party in the middle and help. And
I've never, I think I've had to use it once, but you almost have a little bit of weight you can push back on the warranty company. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I think the warranty company, for the most part, is decently fair.
Mm-hmm. And it depends on which ones. Like we have over 40 partners.
Well, I'm talking about the CarMax ones. The other warranty
CarMax
companies
is definitely great.
I think my issue with the and poor Lucas doesn't want to get involved in any of this here, but my issue with some of these other warranty companies, CarMax sells their warranty in a very specific fashion. And when the customer comes in, they understand their warranty. They understand what's covered, what's not covered. They understand their deductible. They understand. That is not how these other warranties are being sold to the customer. These are being bought at some random dealership, and they come in with completely different expectations, and they don't understand.
They bought a
You must have a different CarMax than I do.
Yeah.
Well, my CarMax does a fantastic job of selling their CarMax warranty.
Well, I ran into a situation where, and Joe, you're welcome to go back and look and see what happened. I mean, one of my clients had something that should have been covered, and they weren't going to cover it. They weren't going to cover, and I can't even remember the exact details of the situation. That's when I said, I'm not doing this, because they absolutely, even in their documents, said it should be covered. I went to RepairPal and they said, look, we've tried, but they're not budging on this. They're not going to do this. And I had lost faith in the program, and they had lost faith in me, and they were tired of me saying, look, you're not treating your clients properly. This client wasn't taken care of. We saw a couple situations where CarMax should be buying the vehicle back. They were unsafe. They should not be on the highway. Huh. And I said, look, I'm not tying my reputation to CarMax anymore. And I'm going to tell you what, since we cut ties now, it may just be the CarMax that's here locally. And we had 7 situations in our time that we were with RepairPal that someone from that CarMax called and said, hey, can we just keep this between us and we'll just pay you.
What?
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah.
No,
we'll just pay you. Yeah. But don't turn this in on the warranty. There was a misunderstanding. We don't tell the client, but we're just going to take care of this. And
that's
that
a poorly run
6 or 7
CarMax.
times. I'm not saying
this CarMax that we have up here at near our shop is enormous, and they sell so many cars. I haven't ran into a vehicle that's come in that's been just it shouldn't have been sold. I have a lot of used vehicles that are recently sold that shouldn't have been sold. At least not presented to the customer the way it was presented, because they walked in thinking they have a good car. I just bought it, and the things
that's really interesting, because I've been in and out of huge CarMax production facilities, and the way in which they run the cars through is so incredibly efficient, and the things that they look at, like, it's all consistent and efficient. And it's a pretty strict line about what they fix,
right? Yeah.
And what they consider, to be something. And I send everybody, you want to buy a used car, you should go to CarMax,
right?
Because now they have their 30-day love your car guarantee, so they'll take the car back in 30 days. They do those things. So maybe it's just the CarMax in your area.
I have ran into situations where I remember in one particular instance, we used to redact our prices because they would agree to, I'm going to pay you $100 for that part. And it's like, okay, well, if I can find that part, if my price was $80, but I can find it for $60 and I can make the extra $20, what do you care? You agreed to $100, you pay me my $100 and let's just move on. And I get on the phone with this guy, and he was giving me the runaround. And I'm like, dude, are you either paying me or we're not? What are we doing here? Why do you have me on the phone for more than 2 minutes on this? And he's like, well, I just wanted to let you know that we would normally not accept this, but because you are a CarMax, you're a MaxCare shop, we're going to go ahead and pay this. I'm like, okay, why did you have to tell me that? Like, what difference would it have made? That I didn't need to know any of that. I don't care that you wouldn't have paid me. Normally, I wouldn't be calling you. But because we're a MaxCare warranty shop, I'm calling you to have this thing handled. Just handle it. And I'm not picking on the warranty company. It was just this one individual.
I think it's it's like anything else. Sometimes you get an individual, because it's not CarMax administrated. There's warranty administrators. in the industry. You know, the warranty group is a huge one. They do a lot of administration for the warranties. And what we
do you guys keep an advisory board?
We do. We have
of like shop owners.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we
mouthy ones.
Yeah, there. Yeah.
Hey, listen, I've got a guy's telephone number.
Yeah, there are some. Yeah. Yeah, we have we have a group that internally, when we partner with different people or we have questions or we want to know things, we'll send it out to this group. And
they must not be giving you like good feedback here, because like there was an email that recently rolled out of RepairPal when you guys had partnered with like 5 or 6 new partners, so there were new groups.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these were warranty companies, and some of these weren't warranty companies. I remember that they had strange names, and they were just, you know, some of these they sounded like startups or whatever. But the value that they thought they were bringing to the interaction, to the relationship, to the transaction, sounded very anti-shop owner. Like it was a little too heavy on the pro-consumer with undertones that we know you're screwing people, so we're stepping in to help. And it got to the point, and it was so egregious, and this is why I'm pointing it out, that shop owners were screenshotting the email and posting it up in the shop owner forums. And then it turned into a let's dump on RepairPal.
Yeah.
Because of the email and the verbiage that was used. And that's why I'm asking, do you guys have an advisory? That should have been vetted. Because I guarantee you, like, if that had gone out to me, I would have been very clear to you, this does not sound like it's a win-win for the shop and RepairPal and the consumer. Like, this looks like you're going to cut into it, into your profitability. You're going to cut into, you know, your processes, your systems, with the hope of gaining a customer. And, you know, take our crumbs, pleb, and enjoy it. That's what it looked like. And these shop owners did not look favorably on this email.
Yeah. No, I think I know what you're referring to. But so I do. Yeah. So in terms of that, what we do internally, no, it's okay. There's been a lot of talk about this particular thing. We have created, like, from that feedback, what we have done is create different tiers. And I don't know if you've talked to your account manager, but we put different partners in different tiers based on different feedback we get, based on negotiated labor rates, based on all different things. And then we make all of our partnerships optional. So you can go through and you can cherry pick which partners you want and which partners you don't. Because that email went out to, like, what we probably, you know, to the advisory committee, to different groups, just to kind of see how people
react,
are thinking about it.
Yeah.
And then we take that feedback and we incorporate it, and we try to make changes.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the ASOG podcast. If you'd like to catch these episodes early, you can do so by becoming a patron. Just go to asog.site and click on the Become a Patron Now button. Becoming a patron helps support the show, gets you several perks, and is tax deductible. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast and to the YouTube channel. And as always, you can direct all your angry comments to my email, david@asog.site. That's DAVID@ASOG.SITE. Until next time.